Okay, I said we would talk about improvising, and now that we have one, two, three, there's actually a lot of music you can get out of three notes. Um, and we're just going to talk a little bit about improvising just so you know that the opportunity is there, and it's a thing that you can do. This isn't really meant to be like a lesson about improv. We could do a whole series or a whole course about just that, and there's a lot of philosophy that goes into improv too. But I don't know if you're like me, but the thing I always wanted to do is to, well, there used to be this guy on was it Saturday Night? Yeah, Saturday Night Live band. I always forget his name. Hamp always remembers. But he was the lead guitarist. He was the leader of the band. And well, actually, you see him a lot of times if there's a concert with like a tribute concert to Bob Dylan or something like that. All these performers, great performers, are coming up and playing their Bob Dylan song. And then this guy, the lead guitarist that I want to be like when I grow up, he's the leader of the band. And you might not notice him if you're just listening and watching the show, but he's always, kind of playing, and he'll tap somebody on the shoulder and tell them when it's their turn to play a solo. And he can play well on Saturday Night Live. He was the one playing the solos. And I just wanted to be able to just, improvise, make something up on the spot, or sit with my friends in a circle and they're singing a song and they say, "Take it, Janet," and I can actually take it. So people gave me advice about improvising, and lots of different people have said things to me lots of different ways, and you may have heard lots of different things about improvising, and usually it goes something like this, just whatever, at least for me up until this point. Most of the time it was, okay, whatever key you're in, you can use any of the notes in that key. So that's basically 7 or 8 notes depending on how you count. And then on the guitar, those notes are down here and they're up there, and there's lots of different shapes that you can use to play those notes. So there's still like tons of choices. And I would just freeze. I would get locked up thinking that I had to know what note to play next or where to start. It was just too much to work with. And then when I was a special ed teacher, I learned about modifying the work for people who were having trouble working at the same level maybe as somebody else. So I modified my work, and instead of trying to play all the notes in that key, I would just play 1, 2, 3. And what a huge breakthrough. I could just relax and play around with 3 notes. And it wasn't like the guy in the Saturday Night Live band, but it was a huge breakthrough. So I'm just mentioning to you that with these 3 notes, you can play around with them and you can begin improvising if that's already not something that you do. Not already something that you do. And there's a few different ways you can do this. With no friend and no background music, you can just play around with them and just play around with the notes. You could throw in the 7 to 1 that we've learned. That one's handy too. A really good thing to do is to play along with a song that you really like. The trick is you're going to need to know what key you're in. You might be able to just guess. If you start, like if it's a simple song, like a straightforward rock and roll song or a country song, or if it's jazz or older pop music, it might be harder. But if it's something fairly modern, like rock or country, you could pretty safe bet, like if you start here, that would be the key of G. You don't have to memorize this. That would be your 1, and you would be playing 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3. And then if this is your 1, you would be in key of C. If this is your 1, you would be in the key of F. And just by guessing, it might work out. Actually, you should know that you don't have to be limited to those 3 notes. When you want to start improvising, all you have to do is start playing notes. And there are no wrong notes. You can play any note you want. If you don't like the way it sounds, there's a couple things you can do. Usually you want to play that note again, and then if you go up 1 fret or down 1 fret, did I say if you don't like it, you play the note. If you don't like it, you play it again, and then you either go up 1 fret or down 1 fret, and you're bound to hit a note that is in the key and sounds pretty good. And the main thing is just like smile and keep on going. Because a lot of notes sound weird at first, only because it doesn't sound the way you expected it to sound. But if you keep playing that note and then the chord changes, it sounds really good. So playing around and having those experiences is really good, even if you're not just focusing on these 3 notes. So if you're up for it, you might want to play a song that you really like, or just let something come on your Spotify channel or whatever. If you have a helper that can tell you what your key you're in, that would be cool for playing 1, 2, 3, or you could just play anything and see how it sounds, and actually narrowing it down to less notes, I think makes it easier, especially when you find a couple that you like, that you know sound good at that one place. If you get a few notes that you like, that's success. Don't feel like it's a failure because not all of it sounds good yet. That it's developmental. And remember, if you've ever seen a kid learning to walk or crawl, they fall a lot before they get it. And this is like that. We have to play the notes that we don't really like the sound of too. Let's see. So you can play along with music. You can play along with a friend. That would be cool because then they could tell you what key they're in. You have to be careful, especially I'm the kind of teacher that you have to watch out for because I like to understand in my head what's going on. And I tend to give people things to think about. And it's good to spend time improvising when you're not thinking what's 1, what's 2, what's 3, especially at the beginning. There's times when we have things we want to think about, but it's also good to just not think and just play notes. Let's see, you can play alone, and you can also find backing tracks. Oh, that would be cool, because if you don't have a helper, you can just, I'll tell you where we usually start. Here, that's a C note, and if you were to, on YouTube, look up a backing track in C, you could ask for any style you want. You could say country, you could say blues. Those are 2 good, they're going to be simple, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And this, if you're in the key of C, then this would be your 1 note, and you could just play 1, 2, 3, and see how it goes. So just wanted to let you know, you could start improvising if that's something you want to do. And we're going to be adding, 1 note at a time as we go through these exercises, and eventually have more notes that we know and are familiar with working with. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, you know how to play in every key now. I don't know. That's pretty cool, huh? So just for example, let's start with C. This note is C. Whatever note that is, if you're playing that, if you call that 1, then you're playing in the key of C. I just played 1, 2, 3, 2, 1 in the key of C. This note here is F. So if you play 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, you just played in the key of C. I mean the key of F. That's the key of F. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. If you start here on 6th string, that's a G. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Remember how? See, we haven't talked about this yet. That's why this lesson is kind of like an aside from the guitar mastery exercises, but this is how, when you've learned this many exercises, you're ready for this theory. Here's a G. Every letter, every whole note, you go up a letter. So if this is G, this is A, and that's B. So if we were to, instead of playing our 1 here, if we play our 1 here, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Now we're playing 1, 2, 3, 2, 1 in the key of A. And it is important that you think of 1, 2, 3, 2, 1 as it's a mini song. You know, we're not rocking out yet, but it's actually a little bitty song. And instead of learning how to transpose and play every key with a great big song, we're learning how to do all the musical stuff. We're learning our theory and our relationships on the guitar and a couple other things that don't fall right off my tongue. But we're learning a lot about how music works with just 3 notes. And then as we learn more notes, we already know how to change keys. So here's, and the relationships and the patterns. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Our micro song in the key of A. And like I said, this is the key of B. And if you really want to know every note, and you don't, I mean every key, and you don't know all the notes yet, you could use a chart. But because there's one little hitch, after you go G, A, B, from B to C is just a half step. We haven't learned about half steps yet in our guitar mastery exercises, but it's coming up next, I think. It's coming up really soon, about half steps. So you can, as long as you find whatever note, that, for example, that is going to be a D. Now you're playing in the key of D. Now you're playing in the key of G again. All right, so yeah, you can improvise. We'll talk a little bit about some theory, or we might save that. I'm not going to tell you yet what we do next. So I'll just see you next time. We'll either go on and learn about 1-4-1 or maybe some theory, and I'll see you then. Bye.